You have these bills effectively that are designed to re-engineer society and to tell financial institutions, hey, certain portion of the population are not getting homes. And the banks say, well, yeah, because they can't afford them and we wouldn't lend these people money because they won't pay them back. The government says, you have to give those people homes. You have to lend them out. And the bank said, well, how are we going to do that? And the government basically said, you're going to do it effectively with no money down and like 2%. And the bank said, you're bullshitting. They said, if you don't do it, it's racist and or whatever else is today, and we'll punish you. But if you do it, don't worry, we'll foot the bill if they should happen to default. That's exactly what happened, and people ended up defaulting. Let's go through some of the economic policies from Kamala Harris. The worst one is it includes outright price controls, okay? Yeah. So again, all the references available, Lido'sCrowder.com. This is according to the Washington Post. The first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries. So what that means is if goods or services or the raw materials or the energy costs go up, the government, run by drunk Kamala Harris, will come in and say, no, this is what you charge.
Yes. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes complete sense. And this is just, it's also tiresome. This has happened before in many other countries. They've even attempted it softly here in the United States. It always leads to hyperinflation and it leads to shortages. Yeah. The idea that you can step in, let's just think about this for a second. We talked about it last week where she said the price fixing from corporations. Corporations don't price fix. It doesn't make sense. Think about it. They're competitive with each other. All the corporations, and now maybe if you have just a duopoly or a tripopoly, and that's why we have antitrust laws if they collude together, for example, like American auto manufacturers, especially when they receive never-ending bailout subsidies. You see that, for example, with airlines. There may be some of that because they effectively are wings of the government. But an individual grocers, different franchises, or individual restaurants, guess what? They have to be competitive. They need to court your business. And so if a couple companies would price fix, another company would come in and say, hey, we can clean up.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that point, wouldn't farmers and ranchers, wouldn't they price fix together too for their prices to the stores?
Well, the price fixing does happen with ranchers and farmers from the government. For example, this is a good example for the government in Michigan, cherries.
Yeah.
Do you know this? This is what they do with cherries. In order to keep the prices of cherries artificially high, if they have a year with record yield, they make them dump the cherries.
Yes.
If they have a year where there aren't enough cherries, they subsidize them. So the farmers get paid either way because the government says we can't have a year where there are so many cherries that the price goes down and the next year the prices go up. So we're going to fix them. They don't even let farmers keep them to make their own pies in Michigan. No. It's well known. The government is the one in charge of price fixing. So to solve the fake problem of corporations price fixing, which makes no sense, she says the government is going to step in and price fix. I don't know if you know this, it's been tried. The Soviets tried it. Of course, Venezuela, any fascist communist dictatorship has tried it. The results? Food shortages.
Oh, I thought it was going to be good.
No consumer basic products like phones, cars, lowest jeans, not even Wranglers. No central heating, cooling, sewage. They end up with black markets. Of course, they end up with hyperinflation. And you know this, it's also the exact same policies that led to the infamous breadlines in Nicaragua, but it shouldn't be surprising that the Democratic Party is still supporting those policies today.
It's funny, sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing.
Oh, okay.
That is, huh? This is the one area. So grocery stores, there is so much competition for food right now. Their margins run at around 2%. Mm-hmm. That is dramatically lower than even the second worst industry. And it's because of competition. And they're saying, oh, they're price gouging. Are you serious? This is the free market working wonderfully. You have to have scale. They're like, we need more mom and pop grocery. You can't because it's so little margin because these big guys are competing like crazy with each other. It works really well. And people are going after them for milk.
Well, the price fixing will favor, again, the giant grocers, just like we saw during COVID. Remember during COVID?
They could survive it.
Yeah, exactly. During COVID, the franchises didn't all shut down. Mom and pop businesses shut down. If you were in Michigan under, wicked governor of the Midwest, Gretchen Whitmer, you could go to Costco, you could go to Walmart, you couldn't go to a local grocer. You couldn't go to a farmer's market. You could go to the weed store, but you couldn't go to a nursery to get the plant seeds that you need. And so what happened is you had an unbelievable number of local businesses that shut down. You saw the same thing in Minnesota, by the way.
Yeah.
You saw, I believe it was 1,500. We cited this last week.
1,500,
1,500 at least confirmed businesses that went under that will never come back as a result of the lockdown policies. When you end up implementing regulations into an industry that are in no way beholden to the free market, larger corporations can survive it. They have more padding. And even worse, larger corporations that are too big to fail don't care at all. They don't have to provide you with anything of value because they'll end up with a never-ending supply of taxpayer dollars. For proof, see how shitty American auto manufacturing has become outside of Tesla. Let's think of the most heavily subsidized and regulated markets. You guys thrilled with airlines? You guys thrilled with dealing with auto manufacturers or car dealerships? What about health insurance? Are these the industries that you say customer service is performed with aplomb, or you go, oh man, these are the worst phone calls you have to make if you have to call someone on customer service? Well, they don't care. These are people who are subsidized by the government. It's very different from a local business. Here's another part of her.
Really quickly, I think I have to fact check you. Research, let me know. You said 1,500 businesses. I think that was the Summer of Love in
just the Summer of Love. Sorry, in Minnesota.
Over 10,000 businesses because of the COVID lockdowns closed down in Minnesota. So
admonish me. Admonish
way worse.
I apologize. I was going by road and I was playing it conservatively. It's 10 times worse than I told you.
And it still sounded bad.
It still sounded bad. So here's another policy here that she is proposing, but the left is saying, oh, this is the same thing as people on the right. It's not. And I'll explain to you the difference, comparing Kamala Harris versus J.D. Vance. She wants to provide this $6,000 tax credit to families for each newborn baby. I get it. Hey, baby steps. It's the one instance where the Democrat Party actually sees a newborn baby and thinks anything other than how to kill it.
Well, that's that's fair, but it has to be born to get the $6K. You can't just get close.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. That's
sounds terrible.
Yeah. So they're trying to compare this to J.D. Vance. Some people even saying it's a ripoff, but it's not even. So J.D. Vance has proposed a $5,000 child tax credit. All right. There's a big difference between the two. Here are two CNBC headlines discussing Kamala versus Vance's policies. Okay, August 12th. Vance wants to raise the child tax credit to $5,000. Here's why that could be difficult. August 16th. Harris calls for the expanded child tax credit of up to $6,000 for families with newborns. So one is, again,
4 days apart.
4 days apart. This is going to be difficult. That's a criticism, obviously.
Yes.
They'll try and say that they're objective. And the other one is just, hey, we're just giving you the facts. By the way, I don't know if you remember this. She also proposed no taxes on tips, which was kind of a landmark policy from Donald Trump, and she was a tiebreaker on the bill that, of course, increased IRS surveillance and taxations on tips. So she is stealing from their playbook, but then she gets it wrong. And the way she gets it wrong is there are none of the income or effectively the productivity requirements for child tax credits. So I don't know if you know this, but this is how you end up creating the kind of problem that you've seen with Black American families. After we saw this with Lyndon Johnson, and we saw this with Model Cities, and we saw this, with the Great Societies program, where you have women, you've heard the term baby mamas, and people will say it's racist, but it's a term that's used because you have women who, if they are not married, they don't have the father in the household, they get more credits, more income. You have some people who effectively end up having more children because it allows them to not work. So now if you add on top of that just a child tax credit, which we're not talking about EBT or actual welfare benefits, but a child tax credit with no income, no work requirements, you are now encouraging effectively unproductivity. And you're going to compound the problem of fatherless households. It needs to come with some prerequisites. I don't know if you know this, but I don't necessarily believe that if you subsidize something, you get more of it. Because we don't really see that with solar. We don't really see that with wind or renewable resources. But we certainly do see taxation and relief from taxation as a behavioral modification. And in this instance, why would you want to reward people not working? It'd be like rewarding people for smoking and drinking, which Kamala Harris likely does as well. So
it doesn't make sense to give a tax credit for someone who doesn't pay taxes.
Right.
It's it's just in the name,
Right. This also brings us, so we see, okay, price fixing. Let's go through all this. Price fixing. Hey, companies, this is what you're going to charge. All right. What do we think happens there? Hyperinflation, shortage of goods and services. Okay. Just a tax credit. Who's going to pay for it? Take a guess.
Me.
You, of course. Then we have the housing assistance.
One of the worst.
And we've been here before. I don't know if you guys know this. I know a lot of you who watch, our median viewer here is 30 or under in many instances. So if you're watching right now, are you aware of what happened with the housing crisis in 2008? And are you aware what led to it? So she wants to provide $25,000 as basically down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. So where will she get the money? Already first-time home buyers. You saved, scraped, and paid for a house, and now through your tax dollars, you get to pay for someone else to get a $25,000 down payment from Uncle Sam. I don't know if you know this. There's already a shortage of 4.5 million homes in this country. She wants to increase, effectively, demand at a time where there is arguably record low supply, or certainly historically low supply. This would mean what? Again, more inflation. If you were to design a policy just to create more inflation, which we've done for the last 3 years, we've seen similar policies, this would be a brilliant way to go about it.
Yeah, it would actually drive, like we said, it will drive the prices up. Now, whether it drives it up, by $25,000, as some people have said, per house, no, that's probably not going to happen. But it will drive the prices up. It's not addressing the thing that is keeping people from buying homes right now, which is mortgage interest rates. It's massive. We did a segment on this and how much you would have to pay every single month.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of money going out because the interest rate went from around 3 or 4% to 7%.
Well,
I don't know what it is
even
today.
worse than that is BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street
that's
buying up single, family
to
homes.
rent them out.
And yes, exactly. They want to create a class of renters. And I don't know if you know this, but Elizabeth Warren has said they are too big to fail. So there's a reason that home prices have gone up, and then you have the exacerbation by the interest rates going up.
Yeah, and she's not doing anything to take that challenge on. Just give people more money. Yeah, that worked great with college tuition. Just give people free money to go to college because now universities are charging $300,000-$400,000 a year, and I'm not talking like Harvard.
Right.
I'm talking other universities. For a 4-year, not 1 year.
Well, the good news is
University of Phoenix, even.
Yes. Hey, I'm a Phoenix.
You got to pay for that.
Nothing
online.
wrong with that.
And she was asked, I rise from the digital ashes.
Hey, burn you, flaming man.
Yes.
What?
Phoenix. It's a burning animal.
Oh, shut up.
Their
a mythical
mascot is
creature?
the Disco Inferno guy.
All right.
I've seen Harry Potter. I know.
She was asked, though, about how she would pay for all of these things. Okay, when we're talking about child tax credit without the same requirements, we're talking about housing assistance. Okay, we're talking about just basically fixing prices, which means eventually you have to subsidize them. Hey, Kamala, how are you going to pay for all this? Well, I don't know if you are aware. The answer went poorly.
Unveiled some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those, and can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. When we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a
Walls
mistake
looking
for
down.
any
All three of them, look at
person
them.
who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment.
So, okay, she just keeps saying return on investment. We get it. We've watched Shark Tank too.
It's like she's trying to prove she knows what it means.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I know what ROI is.
ROI.
I read E-Trade paragraph once.
Hey, it's an acronym. like YOLO. So that's not like that at all. I think it is.
Pass a beer bong.
When this is all predicated, and this is the mistake that has constantly been made. It's predicated on the idea of you're going to increase the tax base, property taxes, that people will make those payments, that people will be able to afford it. If you are giving someone $25,000 as a down payment on a house, what are the prerequisites there that prove this person guaranteed will be able to make those payments?
Right.
Here's the thing. We know historically they don't. The 2008 financial crisis. I don't know if you remember this. People were subsidized to buy homes they couldn't afford under the names of effectively what is originally kind of DEI, right? ESG. It was, hey, we need to make sure that people who can't afford homes, people who haven't saved for a down payment, Banks, you
Right.
can't discriminate. You have to lend out to these people. And then they blame the banks when they insured this, right? The government said, and by the way, if these people default, we are the ones who will deem you too big to fail and we'll foot the bill. None of this happens if the government doesn't step in and say, we will foot the bill through
Right.
the taxpayer dime. Banks wouldn't take that risk.
Yeah.
Everyone defaulted. It created a term that then the left, again, corrects. It's the exact same thing that you see with the price fixing. So let me just simplify this for you. You'll say this is reductive, but it's by design, okay? Because I don't have enough time to get into all of it. But you have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, right? Yes, Dodd-Frank, okay, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You have these bills effectively that are designed to re-engineer society and to tell financial institutions, hey, certain portion of the population are not getting homes. And the banks say, well, yeah, because they can't afford them and we wouldn't lend these people money because they won't pay them back. The government says, you have to give those people homes. You have to lend them out. And the bank said, well, how are we going to do that? And the government basically said, you're going to do it effectively with no money down and like 2%. And the bank said, you're bullshitting. They said, if you don't do it, it's racist and or whatever else is today, and we'll punish you. But if you do it, don't worry, we'll foot the bill if they should happen to default. That's exactly what happened, and people ended up defaulting.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
And then they invented the term to deal with it, to blame the banks, predatory lending. As though banks were going around, lenders were going, today I hope I find a sucker who I can give free money to who can't pay it back.
Right. Nope.
It fails to operate without the guarantee of the government without prerequisites.
Yeah.
This is what we've done, and you've seen it in the past. You want to talk about the swamp? Bill Clinton, George W. Bush said pretty much the exact same thing, which led to the 2008 crisis.
We're attracting more capital into affordable housing and community development by strengthening the Community Reinvestment Act, expanding the network of community development financial institutions, making permanent mortgage revenue bonds and the low-income housing tax credit, and gaining greater commitments from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Oops.
Today, while nearly 3/4 of all white Americans own their homes, less than half of all African Americans and Hispanic Americans are homeowners. A low-income family is qualified to buy a home, but comes up short on the down payment. The American Dream Down Payment Fund will help provide the needed funds.
It's a bad idea no matter who says it. And here's a little bit of cold water for you. Down payments are kind of a barrier to entry for a reason. When you go to apply for a loan, you have to show that that money has been in your account. You can't have somebody give you money for a down payment and it just magically show up in the bank and go, that sounds good enough for me. They want to see a pattern of behavior that indicates that you will pay back the loan, that you understand that this is going to cost you to do. And giving people money to go into a house doesn't do that. It's a barrier to entry for a reason. I want everybody to have a home. I would love that. But it's just not possible for so many people. We saw it in 2008. And what is worse, to have you to put all of your life savings into it, to get a loan, to go into a home, and then to lose it 2-3 years later when you can't make the payments. That's worse than saying, hey, I got to rent for a little while longer and tighten the belt a little bit. Watch Slider with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.